permisiunea voastră, o să încerc discursul ăsta în engleză, nu din lipsă de spirit patriotic, ci din contră. Mi-ar fi plăcut să aud toate discursurile de azi în engleză și eu așa mi l-am pregătit, în speranța că gândirea și ideile și practicile care se întâmplă la noi poate vor fi auzite mai ușor și în alte părți, unde alți oameni se gândesc la același lucru și încearcă același lucru ca și noi. I really don't know why I was put on this panel. It's about lifelong learning. I do intend to live for more than 100 years, but I'm only a quarter the way there. So maybe you will take my words with not more than a quarter trust, because I don't have the proper experience. But I will share my experience anyway in understanding what learning and education is all about. I was born in 1987. It's the year when the world reached 5 billion people in population. So I was one of around 136,500,000 children born that year. If you look at children, children are the perfect learning machines. That's how I like to look at them and describe them. So I was one of these 136 million perfect learning machines born that year. And I had the opportunity to do it for 6 full years, to be free as a perfect learning machine. I remember climbing trees and playing with Legos and asking my father infinite amounts of questions about how this works and why that is the way it is and stuff like this. And also I remember all of my friends from that time in both neighborhoods where I lived by name still to this day, which is interesting. I did the exercise. So I was curious, I was playful, I was creative, I was, as I'm saying, a perfect learning machine. Then I was sent off to school. You know public schools, most of you have probably been to a public school. It's these places where every day is split up in 50 minutes plus 10 minutes intervals by a ringing bell, and the passage from one day to the next is burdened by homework. You know these places, right? It's this place where friends are actually divided by age groups and class sizes which are manageable for a teacher. It's this place where knowledge, world knowledge, is separated into subject matter and separated from the real world. It's this place where each one of us is separated from himself, ultimately. And that happens while being measured and being taught that you are or not worthy for this world by someone else's standard, and without regard for your real situation and real life, which sometimes can be really hard, and without regard for what you're really passionate or interested in doing. So this happens for the best part of 12 years, at least in Romania. By the way, do you know that the only place in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights where the word compulsory is used is regarding primary education, talking about human rights. So the only place. I'll just leave that hanging. Okay, so at about age 18, you're almost ready to start your life. You have these exams, and then you have this big decision that is supposed to impact the rest of your life. Which university are you going to attend? And if all goes well, you get into that university, and after 3 or 4 or 5 years, you're really getting on with your life. You're really, really free to get on with your life. Unless you want to do a master's or 2 or a PhD, then you get to 30, and then you really, really, really get to start your life. And then lifelong learning starts happening to you, right? That's what the European Union says. Anyway, so my education story ended before that, so I took learning more seriously earlier than that. The reason my perception of education degraded is that at around age 18, I started asking people all these apparently simple questions like, what do you like to do? What gives you energy every day? With whom do you like to hang out? Doing what and to what purpose? And most people didn't have an answer to this. Like they babble, okay, well, I want to play this, so where does that lead? Well, I have no clue. Okay. And I did the math. It's over more than 1,000 people I've asked over the past 7 years, and most of them didn't have a decent answer and no way of approaching it. So all of this in time convinced me that all the learning that happens in school is not by design and towards a happy and fulfilled life. It's rather more accidental sometimes and by contrast, which is something bad happens to you and you learn what not to do. So I decided to quit by the end of this understanding all 3 universities I enrolled in, and I got lucky because I met a bunch of people here. They're in the room, really good friends and coworkers, which we shared some ambitions, which were to use learning to make the world a better place. And we started doing that. We started building the first alternative university in Romania. By this time, it's okay if you guys tell me the little red anarchist on the stage, he wants to burn everything down and build new universities and new schools and fire all the teachers. I'm okay with that. But actually, that's not my point. The point of our 5 years of experience is what happens if you strip down the classes and the teachers, with all due respect, and the content of education. By the way, the internet has solved the content problem almost for free now for everybody in the world. So what's left that we should be talking about? What is the DNA of learning? And I have 4 things to share that we've learned along the way. One thing is that true learning is about personal becoming. And it's not about being or getting, like diplomas and stuff like this. It's about becoming. It's about rediscovering yourself and reinventing yourself. And I want to talk to 3 roles here in the room because I'm sure they're here. One is if you're a learner, then the way you go about becoming is questioning yourself. If you're a facilitator of learning, then how you go about it is ask the learner harder questions than he is asking himself. And if you're somebody who's funding learning schools, learning programs, stuff like this, have patience. It's not easy to build an individual. Okay, the second one is you got to get the social aspect of learning down, and that's actually simple because it's about natural human relationships that we build. So if you're a learner, go out and meet people until you get around enough that you get to meet the people that you want to spend more and more time with, doing more and more and interesting stuff with. And it's probably never going to end. If you're a facilitator, put people together and let them do their thing. Maybe help a little bit here and there. And if you're a supporter of education, build the contexts for learning. Think about building parks, think about building cafe shops, think about building hubs and whatever, you name it. And the fourth one is about environment. No, the third one is about the complexities of life, which is true learning doesn't happen in a lab. It happens with real complexities of life, with actual problems, with real life people. And what you do as a learner is you have to look at what you're passionate and do that. And the more you do that, the better. If you're a facilitator, help people get more projects on board. Like put a vast array of problems on the table and see what sticks, big questions. And if you're a funder or a supporter, raise the stakes, but raise them in a meaningful way. put real-life social problems like environment and health and the economy on the table, and start solving by design with learning for that. The fourth one is resources, and the learning environment all around this interaction. I'm going to use Einstein because he's really popular. There's this great quote. He says, there's one big decision which we all have to make in this life, which is we either live in a friendly or a hostile universe. And there's two sides of that. So one, there's two ways of looking at it. Opportunities, resources, wealth, abundance, it's really good for everybody. Or scarcity, we have to fight each other, violence, somebody gets on top, somebody loses, stuff like this. So there's two paradigms, but the second and most important part is you have a choice. It's not that the world is like this or like this, you have a choice about it. So if you're a learner, start thinking about that. Is the world friendly to you, or is it hostile, and how will you act in accordance? If you're a facilitator, it's a big dilemma, and every time you're designing learning for somebody and helping it around, you have that embedded, that decision. And the third one is if you have resources to support, by all means, put the resources on the table and let people play with it. Okay, so where is this all going? I think that lifelong learning is a very good concept, and I encourage you to see lifelong learning as part of yourself. But another take on it, which is, you've heard it in Romanian, I like to say life is learning. If you would integrate that in every day, every moment, asking yourselves and pushing yourselves to become better, I would be so happy. If you would agree that that's a good definition, life is learning, then we don't need to talk about teaching anymore, we need to talk about facilitation. We don't need to talk about curriculum anymore, we need to talk about challenges and questions. We don't need to talk about can'ts and don'ts and wants and haven'ts. We just need to have a context for learning, whatever that may be, and see what we do with that. And if possible, let's not talk about education so much. Let's just talk about the real stuff, the learning. Okay. My personal belief is looking and listening and talking to people in breaks and stuff like this, there's enough energy and know-how and vision in this room and values so that Romania becomes a hub of the learning revolution. The question is, will you join? And if you're a bit scared, it's okay, we'll live and learn.